Hi everyone. Welcome to today's session. I believe we have like a lot to talk about, but then I tried to not wrap it up, but then try to speak within the allotted time. And apologies once again for starting pretty late. Okay. Um, so today I was asked to talk on selecting the right topic for a talk or workshop, right? So if you're looking to, let me know if my voice is loud enough, because I don't know if it's okay. Right. Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about how to select a right topic. How do you, out of like a range of ideas, how do you fine tune to a specific one that has a higher probability of being accepted? And when your talk gets accepted, how do you prepare for it? How do you also prepare for workshops? Because talks are quite different from workshops in terms of duration, the format, your audience, right? And your approach. And also, we're going to talk about how to engage developers post-presentation. And I think this sort of fits for the last, how to apply, like how to actually get, like how to actually apply. Where do you find this information, right? Where, like, how do you even know where this call for papers are, right? Okay. How to select the right topic? I think for um for making a presentation, so for example, I think the call for papers for data plus AI summits just ended, right? And oh, and there is a conversation where you're like, okay, this is a very big event, or whether it's a very big one or it's not so big one, right? What are they looking for, right? So you want to read about the event description. So there is conference, there is summit, there is boot camp, and then there is event, there are meetups. So each of these differs, right? So a meetup is different from a conference. A conference is also different from a summit, and a summit is different from a boot camp. And this defines how you're going to structure, what kind of talks you can submit, and how you're going to structure those talks, right? So yeah, so first of all, you want to be sure, okay, is this a conference or is this a summit, right? And when you're looking at summits are usually so for example, maybe they can be organized by a particular organization. Like there is a sole organizer, which is an organization. So this organization might be, for example, Microsoft or DBT or any of all those really big companies, right? And then they sort of have this conference where they don't just bring their employees, but then they bring professionals from outside. People come and talk about not just their tools, right? But then talk about some of the ongoing trends in the environment and all those kind of things. And this is also different from a conference. So a conference is sometimes might be held by a community or an NGO, or it can also be held by an organization, right? Or a group of people with a vision or a mission or a passion or something. So it's not solely, it doesn't necessarily have to be like an organization. And then what about the meetup? So a meetup, probably this is held by a community, right? So a group of people with shared interests, and they want to have an event where they talk about maybe a particular tool. It's usually like focused to something. So a conference might have like diverse, they can talk about AI, they can talk about software, talk about data analysis, talk about like a wide range of things, right? But then a meetup is usually has like a theme, like a core concept where, and you have like maybe specific tools to talk about. Okay. What other one? So a boot camp, just like this one, can be as a result of like you're looking to host a series of trainings for certain number of people. So it can either be for beginners or for intermediates or for experts, or really, it just depends. Or for people looking to transition from maybe a career path to another. And each of these events, right, have their own peculiarities. So first of all, you want to read the event description and be very sure, like, okay, do I want to submit to a conference or do I want to submit to a meetup, right? These are different. And then secondly, you want to find out the topics that this event or conference or whatever it is, what are they looking for, right? What are the topics they are interested about? So for example, a conference focused on Kubernetes or AWS, right? As their, probably in fact, in the name of the conference, you have AWS something, something, right? So you know that, okay, you except they are explicitly asking you to include maybe tools from competitors. We do not, I don't think they would anyways. So you want to look at, okay, what are your own use cases of maybe AWS? And then you can like present at this kind of conference. So find out topics they're interested in. Maybe they're looking at AWS in maybe IoT or in AI or in different fields. So you want to understand how organizations are using their own tool, right? Or their own cloud services or their own local tool, right? How are they using it to change lives, to boost business values? So you can see that there are differences. So some organizations that are looking at, they want to know what the developer story is like. They want to know what impacts people are using our tools to create, right? Yes, there will be trainings where they show you, okay, how to do this with AWS, how to do that with this tool, how to do this with all that and that. So you want to know what topics, right? And what direction. Are they looking for more training related materials or are they looking for more story related presentations? So you want to make sure that you get that clear and stated, right? And something you also want to do is to research the previous version of that conference, right? And then you want to know who are the speakers, who were the speakers rather, and what topics did they speak on. This is really important because some conferences are like they require you have certain number of experience. And I know that you're trying to be, you're trying to shoot for the stars, but then you also want to make sure that you understand the territory you're shooting to. So some conferences want like you to have like expert view. So some they stated explicitly that they need expert views on these topics. So you're not an expert. So why do you want to apply? I don't know. I think it's better if you go there to listen to the conference and then become an expert than trying to shoot your shots and then you're rejected and then you're complaining. So you want to look at who were the previous speakers. If you can find, it'd be good if you can find like maybe a speaker with your own level of experience. So okay, maybe I have a shot at this, right? But then if all of them, you're seeing CTO, you're seeing staff, not staff engineer, principal engineers, you're seeing all these big guys. I'm not saying you should not shoot your shot, but then you have an understanding of the territory you want to shoot your shot to. So it means that your topic must be really compelling and really interesting to who these reviewers are going to be, right? Because they also have their expectations. They have what they're looking for. And that's why it's really important to look at what previous talks, right, have been done, right? What have they been like? How has the topic been structured? Because another thing about a topic is you don't just sit down and just craft anything, right? Your topic has to be catchy. It has to be interesting. It has to be exciting, right? It has to want people to attend. So they don't want to have a session that nobody attends. I mean, that's no good value for money. So know that if you're submitting a topic, your topic has to be really interesting. It has to draw people to it. So you want to look at what topics their previous speakers have submitted, right? And what were they on? How did they structure it? You want to see the style, right? How did they write their abstract? Because some of these abstracts tell you that whatever abstract you submit is what will be put on the website, right? To make people want to attend your session. So you need to understand, how to write appropriate abstracts. I mean, you don't want to have something that people don't even understand what you're talking about. So You also need to understand what are your own current interests. I mean, we've talked about what the event is looking out for, the kind of presentations they're expecting. Then what are your own interests? What have you worked on, right? What have you built? What's your expertise? Do you have anything interesting to share to the developers? So you need to ask yourself that question. And then you also need to ask, right, how does this align with the topics they've highlighted, right, with the areas they're looking for? So you need to ask yourself this question. So for example, if I'm looking to talk about dashboards, right, creating dashboard and storytelling, then I need to look at the topics that the conference have highlighted. Okay, is it related to it, right? Are they looking for, sometimes it's still, okay, we're looking for specific tools, but then they can say it's not restricted, but then we're looking for like specific tools. So you want to, okay, can I include this tool in my presentation or not? So you want to like really know this. You also want to draft a good proposal. So you've done all this research in your head, you're trying to find, okay, maybe in your head you have an idea of what you'll talk about. So you want to write this down, and then you want to okay, so yeah, sorry. You want to draft a good proposal. Just write what you're thinking about. You don't necessarily need to have crafted an ideal topic at that point. I mean, it might be like, okay, I want to talk about dashboards, I want to talk about analytics, I want to talk about a particular use case. So I have these three things. Then with that, I draft a proposal. Okay, this is what I want my talk to contain, right? Now, drafting a topic is like a skill on its own, and it's not something that you might get instantly. So sometimes you might need to write versions and versions and versions and have people proofread and, give you ideas, give you suggestions. Yeah, except maybe you're already an expert and then you have an idea of how to write. So writing a topic, even in content marketing, right? It's a skill. So you have to read about how do I craft this topic. And I think there are also tools available. I cannot remember an exact one that can help you with drafting out topics from your content. So you might also want to explore that too. Then in your talk, you want to know, so for example, if you're going to talk about your startup, right? You want to know what extent. So some conferences or events do not want sales pitch. So even if you're going to talk about your startup, you're not talking about we're having this market value. You're not talking about all that. You're talking about like something that can be beneficial, not selling, right? So you're not coming from, we are a startup, we're looking for users, we want you to join our platform. No, right? So you want to be sure. So if they don't explicitly state that they don't want sales pitch, you can also ask. I mean, always be on the safer side. Okay, so some of the things in talk can be lifted to workshop. The only difference is that in a workshop, you have like a longer duration. So some might be 45 minutes, some 2 hours, some 6 hours, some 1 day. And if you're wondering, how can you have a workshop for 1 day? You might want to, except if you're interested in maybe research. So research conferences usually have those long workshops. And the way it is that you have maybe a particular, so for example, I know of Deep Learning Indaba conference. So they have, for their workshops, you usually have organizations, maybe research communities, decide to host a workshop for 1 day. And then you're asked to submit to that workshop. You're submitting maybe a tutorial or, yeah, something like a workshop to that workshop, right? And so those are the people that would review it, not necessarily the conference as a whole, but then the people you're submitting to. So it depends. If you have like a twofold, maybe you have session 1, you have session 2, or or what you want to talk about is so long that you cannot condense into like a single session. And by a single session, I mean, I think maximum of 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, people can have concentration for 2 hours max. Then after that, it becomes so tired. So if you can't like condense it, or your talk has like, your workshop has like 2 parts, so you can have session 1, session 2. It really depends. You also want to know what category you want to submit to, because some of these workshops, like I said, are hosted by communities or by companies or by organizations. So you want to know which one closely aligns to your interests, right? Aligns to what you want to do. And then another important thing is to know the guidelines. So you really, really want to know the guidelines of this workshop. Do they have a particular format for the slides? Do they have a particular format for the workshop, right? What are the workshop materials you're requesting from you? So you want to read these things, you want to understand what they're asking you. You really want to do that. And you also need to ask yourself, how does your project align? So for example, if you're looking to submit to, maybe you're looking to submit to NeurIPS conference, and then you're looking to submit, maybe your workshop is on climate change, and you want to submit to NeurIPS. So you have to look for workshops on that climate change. So I know of CCI, climate change AI, I think CCAI, right? So you can submit your work to them, and then they're the ones to review. So they have like this guideline that you have to go through, you have to follow for you to be able to have like a successful, or like for workshops to be able to be accepted rather. And some have like defined criteria. So while some welcome submissions from, if they explicitly state PhD students, I know you don't want to grieve for anybody, but then make sure that you, if you're still going to apply, your application has to be outstanding. And I think that many people don't realize that you want these opportunities, but then you're not ready to put in the work. So you have to put in the work, make sure it's so good that they can't reject you. Like really, maybe you're not a PhD student, but then you've been working on this really exciting research and you want the world to know about it. But then your research, your proposal, your presentation, because now it's less of the research, that if it guides, if it matches what you're looking for. So it's now less of the research, like how good research is, and more about how you're presenting to them. Like they have to really like your research, and you have to know how to present it very well. Then you also want to confirm if the workshop is going to be in form of a tutorial, or is going to be in form of I would say a talk. Like, so some of the workshop I've attended, they're not all codes. Some are like, we're going in depth into certain concepts, right? That you can't just do at a talk, because you have like a specific audience, right? So while you might have some, maybe your workshop is dedicated to beginners, to intermediates or to experts, while you might have some enthusiastic beginners, want to just know what is going on here, or just widen their experience. So, but then your main audience is are experts. So you need to be able to tailor your presentation to that aspect. And then you're going in depth, like you're going, because you have time. So there is no just scrap around, talk about main points. You're going in depth, and then you're showing what you've learned, right, over time. So let me give you an idea. So there was this workshop I attended it was on probability, Hamilton Monte Carlo. So that's like Bayesian inference. So we're discussing about, it was more like going in depth into the maths. So we're not writing codes, but then by the time you're done with that session, your head is hot, because you've done a lot of, calculation and in-depth stuff. And by the time you're coming out, these are things you can just take and apply to your use case, or apply to your, to whatever you want to build. So that is the difference between a talk and a workshop. Why talks gives you like an idea, or okay, these things are possible. A workshop takes you in depth. So you're looking at in-depth content. And then now that, okay, you have an idea of, okay, this is what I want to talk about. This is probably the format is going to be. This is what they are expecting from me. This is the kind of audience I should be expecting. You can now draft a proposal, right? Craft a topic, and the rest follows. Okay. Yeah. So now preparing for a technical talk. So a technical talk in the sense that maybe you're talking about a software tool, you're talking about a particular use case, or even if it's business, it's still related to tech, like, and it's really, really technical, where not just anybody can understand, like, it's for specific people who are developers. Okay. And the first thing you want to do is know your audience. You want to know who you are talking to. Are you talking to executives, right? Executives, I mean CTOs and all those people in that line of aspects. And then you also want to know, okay, am I talking to beginners, right? Or am I talking to people who have some years of experience but are looking to advance? So you need to like clearly define these things. It's really, really important. So you don't want to have a generalistic talk, except your talk is on story. So if you're telling a story or telling a use case or story, like, you might want to be able to bring everyone together and all. But then it's really good to have a specific audience you're talking to, right? And then you might add maybe a few beginners or a few experts and make sure that everyone gets something out of it. So you also want to ask yourself, what's the latest in your field? So you don't want to talk about something you learned in 2019, presenting in the 2024 conference. I mean, you're outdated and like, boo. So you want to know what is the latest in your field. How can you put this into your talk, into your presentation, into what you know, right? Because the essence of a talk, right? Why am I spending the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes listening to you? Not because you have a fine face, right? But because you have something valuable to add to me that can help me maybe progress in my career or learn about a tool or have an idea of what to do next, really. So it has to be the latest. You have to include the latest in your field. You also want to be able to balance jargon with easy to understand terms, right? I know that some developers, like, I know they want to show that they are agbas or they are really, really good. But then you have to understand that you have to find a way to balance it. I know maybe your talk is dedicated to experts, but at the same time, you should be aware that, okay, a few not experts might want to enjoy the session. So you don't want to bore them with you just giving grammar and grammar and grammar. I know the technical guys might flow, like the experts might flow, but then want to make sure that it's, yes, there is jargon, but then yes, they can understand what you're saying regardless. Okay, so another thing that can help you in your presentation is to have a map of your audience journey. That is, where will my audience be, like, when they started, and where would they be when the session has ended, right? So you want to have this map. It's really, really important. It sort of helps you draft an outline. So maybe from being complete novice about this tool, I'm going to introduce them to what the tool is about, and then maybe they have an understanding of the history and maybe what inspired the tool. And from there, I talk to them about some of the critical importance of this tool. And then I show them some use cases, and then I take questions. So by the end of my presentation, they already have, like, they already know what this, they can tell their friend what this tool is about. So you want to be able to draw that journey. Like, this is also, you can also call this like objectives of your talk, right? So you can make it a map to be maybe more interactive to you. So from here to here, and make all that journey. Now that you're like, okay, I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of that, you want to start. So before you start writing or before you start putting down your ideas, maybe you want to have an outline. So an outline will help you guide you into what resources to look for and what resources are relevant. So you want to write an outline of your talk. So how do you get an outline? If you're familiar with the topic, even if it's something you know very well, like you already have like from drawing that map, writing that objectives, you already know, okay, this is probably what is next. And then doing some research can help you either add to it or remove from it. Then, now that you have an outline, you begin to gather materials related to your work, right? So do some research. You want to, now that you want to get the latest, you need to look for latest materials, right? This can range from blog posts to research papers to even past conference talks, right? To maybe trending stuff on Twitter. You just want to make sure that your talk is up to date. I remember, so there was this time when AI was really, really booming on Twitter. I think that was last year. And so there was this lady, she was supposed to give a session in 2 weeks. So I think a week before, she already updated her slides to include, I think she was talking about, I think it was generative AI. So a week after, new stuff came out, she had to update the slides again. Then new stuff came out. In fact, a date to her presentation, she already submitted it, right? She had to update it again because another thing came out that day. So that is to show you how relevant you must be. And that shows like the quality. I mean, something just came out yesterday, but then if you don't know about it, that means you are like old school, especially in a very dynamic field like AI. So that also shows that you need to keep gathering and curating content and making sure that your materials are up to date. So then you begin to read and read and read. And that's why you need time to like prepare for these things, except you are talking about your own experience. Like it's different when you're talking about like a story, but then when you're talking about a field or a dynamic field, it's really, really important to read and read and read and know what you want to say. Like know it very well. Another thing you want to do is you want to validate your ideas. So perhaps you already have like your notes, you have like your materials. You want to make sure that this is actually what it is. I know it sounds good in your head, but just make sure you talk to at least an expert about this, right? And then hear their own feedback. So some of these things might be controversial that you don't even know is controversial. So it might be that maybe in the experts world, there is a division. So some people believe this, some people don't believe this. So you want to make sure that you are aware of that controversy. So how would you know if you never reach out? So reach out, ask them for feedback. Some can even give you pointers or help you with your presentation, which is very, very, very helpful. So practice, practice, practice. Make sure that you're not preparing 1 week to your conference unless your talk was accepted 1 week to the conference, which is not ideal. I mean, I think that happened at, I think it was Data Fest when my talk was accepted, just a few days. I actually wanted to decline it because you're not giving me enough time to prepare for this presentation. But fortunately enough, I was preparing to give that talk somewhere else. So I already sort of had like an idea of, I already started all that. And then I just, okay, let me just give this at Data Fest. So unless you're an expert, you want to give time, or maybe you want to be doing working overnight to make sure that your stuff is quality and your stuff is valid. Okay. Now I talked about talks, right? I talked a lot about how do you prepare your talk, what you need to do. Now for workshops, it's transferable, but then you need to take note of a few more things. So I already mentioned that you need to understand the workshop format. You need to understand what your audience expects. So someone attending a workshop, and at the end of the workshop, it's like, I don't gain anything. That is not a good workshop. So you want to make sure that your audience, regardless of the level of expertise, learns something new, right? And that's why usually workshops are about what you've done. They might be about a project, right? A use case or something you have done. So sometimes organizations give workshops where they talk about maybe a particular tool that they developed. So something you probably don't really know about in depth, or it could be something you know about in depth. So if at the end you want to make sure that your audience can use or can replicate it, or if you can't replicate exactly everything, right? After your presentation, the audience can go back and then replicate it. So that's what you have to keep in mind. So you need to know what expertise that you have, what's your own expertise on this topic. Are you giving a presentation on a topic that even you yourself, somebody helped you to do the project, and then you are here going to make noise about it, right? That doesn't make any sense. So you want to know what expertise you have and what expertise you're expecting. So from your audience, what expertise should they have? Because I think for some conferences, you're the one to define who attends your workshop and who doesn't. Like, I think some conferences give you that flexibility, depending on how technical your content is. So you want to know who your presentation is for, right? Who are you presenting to? Are you presenting to PhD students? Are you presenting to business executives? Just a second. Okay, I think my light went off. I can just go without my video then. So you have to know who you're presenting to. You have to understand, okay, what's my mode of presentation? Would you be able to give that presentation in person? Would you be able to give it virtually? Would you be able to would you be giving it hybrid? That is, would you have live attendees online and also in person? So you need to understand these things because they help you start preparing for technicalities and technical requirements. Because if you're going to be giving a presentation online, you need to make sure you have all the tools. Maybe you're going to be using Zoom. You need to make sure that you're able to switch between different screens, or your system sort of accommodates your presentation. So you need to start thinking about all these things quite early. Maybe you need to get lights, you need to get a microphone, you need to start making preparation for all these technicalities. Or maybe you're even going to be using maybe you're going to be speaking through maybe like a computer and then presenting through another computer. So you need to understand how can I connect these things together to make a seamless flow. So they're very, very important. Maybe do you have the technical requirements that you need, right? So, and also where you're going to be, if you're going to be presenting code, what medium can you use that's going to make it easy for anyone to join your session and get access to that code? So you don't want to put your code somewhere and then people have to type a very, very long link to just access it. So you want to look at, okay, do I need to shorten the link before? And how easy is it to find the code? Or if you're sharing a GitHub repository, not that the code will be inside a folder, inside another folder, far, right? That they have to be looking for it. So you want to make sure that there is an adaptable medium, or if you're using an interactive platform, that everyone have access to it. If you're using cloud services, how can you make sure that every participant can access it and no one is cut off because they don't have credit cards or they don't have, you need to begin to ask yourself all these questions too. Then you want to structure a presentation to allow a mix of expertise. That is, someone who, maybe your presentation is for intermediates, right? So a beginner from the very beginning should be able to understand what this workshop is about, what the aim of this workshop is, right? The steps. So the person might not be able to follow to the end, but at least the beginning, he understands it. So you want to make it flexible a bit so that someone who is just learning about this concept can flow through. And then for really intelligent ones, they can learn, even though they are beginners. Like, some people are really intelligent and they can even follow with the experts. So You want to make sure that your presentation is that flexible. Then you want to make it easy for people to follow during your presentation. So you're not too fast and you're not too slow. And while you're dividing your presentation into tasks, right? So some people divide it into 3 parts. So the first part, maybe talk about the concept, the second part, another concept, the third part, another concept, right? And you want to be sure there's a flow between these concepts. So for example, I'm not, maybe for example, your workshop started with learning about JavaScript, and somewhere in the middle, I'm building portfolio. Okay, like what is the link? How easy is it? It's not supposed to be jumping from somewhere to another, right? You're supposed to make it seamless flow and a continuation, right? So finish the first part. Maybe the first part is for everyone, general people. Then the second part, you need to have some knowledge. Then the third part, but then there must be a flow, right? So that it's easy for everyone to follow along. Then, yeah, just like I said earlier, you want to divide your session into chunks of tasks. Make sure that your session is easy to follow. So you don't want to have like long code and then everyone is wondering where the beginning is, where the middle is, and they don't even, there's no feeling of achievement. So you divide it into sections. Okay, someone finished first section. Like, you have this small adrenaline, like, okay, I finished something, I can move to the next. Because remember, it's a technical session. You're using your brain power, and then you can get very tired easily. Like, even after the first session, you can get really tired. So you need to make it easy for people to grasp and complete, right? You want to make it enjoyable at the same time. You probably don't want to fill it with memes and emojis everywhere so that I don't look like a clown. But then you want to make sure that it's interactive. Maybe at some point in your head, while presenting, you want to have a place where you stop everyone and you guys have this chat, discuss the scenario. So you want to build your presentation, right, in that format. And another thing is you want to devise estimates for the time it's going to take to complete certain tasks. That is also very important. It's good to have an idea of how long it takes to complete one task, right? Maybe one section or one line of code. How long does it take to run? So this would help you prepare like your whole presentation so that you fall within time, right? Not that at the end of the 2 hours, you are just in section 1. Because why? You forgot that, or maybe on your own computer, you've already preload it, and then for someone to preload it takes 1 hour. So you want to see how you can make your code simple, make it relatable, right? And if you're not giving a coding presentation, right, maybe your presentation is more theoretical, but then it also involves like a lot of brain work and concentration and focus. So how would you manage people's attention? Because know that when your presentation starts, people's attention is towards you and all this kind of thing. So now how are you going to manage people getting tired? Because like attention span differs from person to person, and then it reduces. So the moment you see people pressing phone, you know that you're almost like almost everybody in your workshop is pressing phone. That's a bad sign. So how are you going to manage it? Especially when you're talking about very technical concepts. Yes, you might be talking to the right audience, but then people are not robots. They are humans. Even experts get tired. Even in things that they are excited about, they still get tired. So how are you going to foster interactiveness? How are you going to foster communication? Maybe you're going to create breaks. So I think what a workshop did was that because it was very mathematical, they created like breaks. So after like 15 minutes, they allow people ask questions, and then everyone is interactive and excited again. Then they continue for another 15 minutes, people ask questions. So that way, people are not so super tired, right? Okay. Yeah, and I think also for non-coding technical workshops, you want to make sure that you divide your presentation into chunks too, right? So people know when they finish from one versus when they finish from another. This is really important because if your slide, maybe your slide is like 80 slides, because this is a technical workshop, so it's allowed, right? 80 slides, and then you just go in slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, slide 4, slide 5, and it's going, like, people will be tired. So maybe what you can do is the first 10 slides, then there's a pause, which shows there's a pause, and then when you're moving to another one, there is a transition, just okay, we're moving to another stuff, so that people can follow, and then they can be able to monitor their own progress. So okay, I've learned about this, now I'm moving to this, then I'm moving to this afterwards. So that is also important. Okay. Okay, and I think for coding presentations too, for non-coding presentations rather, you need to know who your audience is, especially for if it's theoretical, because whether you're talking about tech in politics, right? And then you're talking about maybe analyzing certain political things. I mean, this is very possible. So I know that maybe maybe there are not people that love politics here, but then, or you're talking about tech in policy making and all those other things. So you want to know if your audience is a developer, or if your audience is a mix of developers and policymakers, so that you don't shoot yourself in the leg, because those people, they are usually those policymaker guys or non-technical people, they're usually sort of looking for your downfall. Not like they intentionally look for your downfall, but then they're looking for where you're going to say something that contrasts what they believe. So that is also good to know who your audience is, right? And how to best find that minimum. So that's why it's even good that even after creating your technical presentation, you validate it. And this can also be, maybe you're talking about your, maybe a technical presentation in health. So you want to make sure that you're not misnaming, like all those small things, they really piss people off. So you want to make sure that your presentation is perfect. Have people review and review and review and review. Like, it's really important. Okay. I want to know if there is any question so far, because I've said a lot of things already. So before I like go into the next into the next aspect, I want to know if there's any question so far. Nobody has a question. Everybody understands. Okay. So if no one has a question, maybe we should all stretch a bit, stretch, because we're going into another extensive session, extensive content rather. Okay. So, and in this other part, we'll be talking more about, now that you've prepared, now that you've okay, does anyone have a question? Okay, I think not. Okay, if there are no questions, then maybe we should take like 5 minutes to stretch. I would have loved to like show you how to, but then unfortunately I am out of electricity. Okay, I hope we've taken a few minutes to just stretch around. Okay, good. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about how do you engage developers after your presentation. This is also a very good question, because, and I'm going to come in from two perspectives. So first, let me start from the perspective where this is your first presentation. Like, you've not done this before, and in your head, you knew that you said probably nonsense on the stage. Like, you forgot some things, you mistook some things, and then you left the stage, but you're not feeling too good because you felt you made a lot of mistakes. So there is the probability for you to just go and hide. I mean, like I've said a lot of nonsense. Nobody should see me. You're very afraid of people saying, "Hi, you made this mistake," but the reality of things is that nobody is really going to crucify you for making a mistake, or like people. You should know that people are not out for your downfall. Like except except you're talking about a controversial topic where some people they are really looking for the parts where you just hit them and then they'll give it to you back by asking questions. So the first thing is, after your presentation, do people ask questions? So if your audience asks questions, you want to try to answer their questions the best way you can. If you can. If you don't know it, it's better to just say it, to just decline like appropriately if you don't know it. It's better than say nonsense, because if it's recorded, how will you run away from that? So you want to make sure that if you don't know it, just say, oh, I probably don't have an answer to that now, but we can talk after or find a way to sort of end that. Then if you know it, you want to answer it well. So there might be sometimes that maybe you're like me, I know it, but then you forgot the answer. That is also fine. You can, maybe because you're afraid it's your first time and then you're freaking out and all those kind of things. So it's totally fine. No one is going to like crucify you. Like they're also being empathic. So it's not about, I mean, you're not trying, it's not like you're trying to prove and then show that you are the master, right? You're teaching people are also empathic to you by default, unless you've stepped on too many toes. So you can answer if you're really confident about it, or when it's things that you, maybe it's something you worked on and they're asking questions on that. I mean, you're more confident to talk about that than talking about topics you don't know too well. So it's better for you not to answer public. You can just say, okay, maybe we can meet after and talk about it, right? And even if there are no questions, so if people ask questions, it can be a good sign that you had a good presentation, right? If people ask questions. And at the same time, it's not necessarily a metric. So people don't ask questions, don't feel like you're a failure. Sometimes it means that you gave a really good presentation and you answered their questions. And sometimes it might be that your audience is, maybe you don't have so much of your target audience, and then other people they are just learning for the first time, so they don't even know what questions to ask. So those are the evaluations you might need to, some things you might need to like take note of, really important. Okay. Yeah. Then after your presentation, you want to be around, right? You want to be available. So I know you want to go and meet your friends and start ranting about everything, but stick around for a while. Try to talk to people, be available, be open. Don't frown your face, or don't look like, oh God, I just messed up. So be available, be open. As people are walking out, like you look at them, exchange glances. You can even start the conversation. If nobody's talking to you, talk to somebody. And then you don't know, the person that you talk to might have wanted to talk to you, but the person was feeling shy. So you help the person overcome. I mean, that's how to build good relationships. So talk to somebody, and the person that you said that you would answer the person's question, don't run away, right? Stay. If the person, because by the time the person comes to meet you, the person presents the question with more information. So he's not asking the same question. You can ask person for more information. Okay, tell me more about this. Tell me about your use case. And then you have a better idea of how to answer it. So be around. Don't, the urgency to go around with your friends, perish it. Just stay around and make sure that you're also aware of the people that want to talk to you. Because some people is like they want to steal you for themselves. So you have to make sure that and then you're looking at the other people. So you make them that, okay, I know you're here and I'm going to attend to you, right? And if someone's conversation is taking to, tell the person to hold on, right? And then attend to other people, because it shows how, like, the kind of value you put on them. So it's not good that you are talking to one person, other people want to see you, and then you don't act like as if they exist. I just focus on that one person. they leave, but it doesn't leave a good impression, right? So yeah, that's what I can say. And then make sure that you provide your means to which they can reach you. So maybe LinkedIn, email, Twitter, and make sure they're actually working. I will not say you should share your WhatsApp number unless they personally ask for it. So I don't say you should put it on your slide, right? I don't say that's good, but then make sure people can reach you. And when they actually reach you, you reach out back. So now it depends. If you're talking to beginners, if your session is to beginners, you know that a lot of people are going to reach out to you, right? A lot of people reach out to you, and even you might get overwhelmed. So how do you manage it? Some people, so it's just like you skimming. Some people, you probably don't need to respond to every single, if they're not too much. If you have like maybe 50 DMs now, and maybe for you, like you feel like 50 is too much, you can't look at those ones that some people just message you unreasonably, right? But some people actually have stuff. So you want to make sure that you can identify those ones. And answer them, right? Anything else? So make sure that you also, yeah, so you have that continuation, because you really can't tell the person that you answer the question today. I mean, there was the time when after my presentation, so this man walked up to me, and somebody had already taken over 5 minutes, in fact, going to 10 minutes. And I knew this man wanted to see me. Like, I think he traveled from Dubai. I had no idea he traveled from Dubai. And what I just told the person was, just please calm down. Let me talk to this person. Like, and I had no idea. So then he introduced himself. He works here, he traveled all the way from Dubai to, and I think his company was having, probably they had a booth somewhere. They're like, okay, we're looking at, I love the presentation, this, that. And we're looking to open a new office in Nigeria and all this kind of stuff. So imagine if I had fixated myself on that person, on that same person, and the man left. What's the law? It's gone. So you need to cultivate that habit of making sure that you're available, you're open. It's not time. I know you are tired. Like after talking, your head is probably banging already, right? And then you're tired. Still stay, still smile, still be open, still be available, because you really don't know. Okay. Yeah, now let's move to the. Okay, so how do you apply for, how do you even apply and how do you get accepted? Well, the first question is, where do you even find these things? Where I find them through newsletters. One of those newsletters is Diversify Tech. So Diversify Tech is, I don't know if I have a direct link here. So you can just search it on Google, Diversify Tech. So the author has like series, and then she talks about, I think it's a she. I'm not sure. So the person talks about, I'm not sure if it's a she or he. So the person talks about business, professional, and under the professional newsletter also adds like call for papers and all. Then another way can be just Google search for maybe conferences or meetups in this field, and then you see a lot. Then another way is to find websites that provide up-to-date information. So for some websites, what they do is to keep you aware of all the conferences and all the events happening throughout that year. I mean, sometimes they don't have all the old conferences, because they probably have like all those big ones where your chance of entry might be slim. So, but then they also give you an idea. Another place is companies that you use their tools or you sign up for. So for company like Databricks, for example, they usually have like this conference that they host yearly. So you can also submit there, or maybe Microsoft, or maybe all these tools you use, they usually have like conferences. So you just need to keep an eye on their website, know when so if the conference is going to be in June, so you should be thinking that maybe somewhere around, I think 2 or 3 months earlier, their CPF call for papers would be out. So you want to, and then you yourself, you want to be able to track it. So either local or international or whatever, you want to be able to like track the application deadline, because there's nothing as painful as going through the stress and pain of choosing a topic and all those things, only for you to think that it's 11:59 p.m. WAT, right? And meanwhile, it is 11:59 PST or IST or time zone. You see, time zone issue can be drastic for you, and it can be a good thing for you, and it can be a bad thing for you. It can be a good thing for you if they are ahead of if you're ahead of them, yes, it can be excellent. But if they're ahead of you, you will cry. Like, it's terrible, because in your head, by default, your 11:59 is usually when your time goes to 11:59. So you must be able to track and manage these time zones, right? So that's like something you need to. So don't expect by default, unless the state states that maybe you see AOE or anywhere on earth. That's how you know that, okay, 11:59, 11:59. But if not, you want to confirm and check that, okay, they are 11:59. When does it correlate? It maybe 4 p.m. your time. Imagine if it's 4 p.m. your time. Maybe you're just coming back from okay, like, when I get home, you procrastinate. When I get home, by the time you get home, it has closed. So you want to make sure that you track, and then you're able to like monitor when and how. So another thing you want to do is, maybe in fact, you haven't drafted everything, but the fear of being rejected is what is going to make you not to apply. Sometimes you don't know. The interesting thing is that they might have even accepted all the speakers except one. Maybe they're looking for a particular topic, and it is that topic you are going to submit is what they're actually looking for. You can't tell. The probability of these things being a success, right, might be lower than being a failure, right? But then always try, especially if you've invested your time, your efforts. Apply. Don't let the application deadline just go like that. Apply. The worst we get is, sorry, we were unable to accept your session, or we already have maximum number of speakers, or whatever. But then when you get accepted, that's a good thing. So build confidence. Maybe sometimes you need people to ginger you, or how you get motivated. So do that too. And I think so aside from local communities too, and aside from companies, another way you can get CPFs is on Twitter. Yes, so another way you can get CPF is from Twitter, but then you need to, like, some conferences like Python conference, it's like global. So if you miss US, you can look out for maybe PyCon Africa, or you can look out for PyCon in Australia or Europe, or other places. So look out for those kind of conferences that have like branch in different locations. Then if you miss one, like by the time you hear about one, so if you hear about PyCon US is out, but then the timeline, maybe you heard about it today and it's ending tomorrow, and you don't even have any idea in your head. So you know that, okay, which one is coming next? Once prepared towards that one. How do you get accepted? If you follow the procedures I highlighted before on how to prepare, how to select the right topic, right? So if you follow these procedures and make sure like you do your due diligence, it wouldn't be hard for you, seriously. Like, you have a higher chance because you already understand. And sometimes you can also talk to people that have spoken at these conferences before. So that's another way. So maybe you are unsure if your proposal is good enough. Talk to someone that has spoken at either the conference exactly or a similar conference, and they can guide you. Sometimes they can see what you don't see. They can give you better ideas for a talk or a workshop, right? So, and they might even give you tips. So you can also talk to people, and you can even reach out to, oh, my screen is black. I'm not presenting a black screen. I don't know if everyone else can see my screen. Okay, so you want to like, you can even reach out to the event organizers, right? Like there is like, maybe it's your first time, because some events tell you that if it's your first time presenting, that they are willing to help you. Like, they are willing to help you. So if they don't explicitly state it, you can reach out that, okay, this is my first time. How do I do all this? And ask these questions, and they'll be willing to guide you too. So you have like tons of resources to help you out. You should just be able to be ready to do all the hard work that is required. Okay. I think with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. So are there any questions? I don't know if anyone has any questions. Okay, I see Oluwatobi is raising up his hand. Oh yeah, feel free.
Hi. Good
Hi.
Thank you for presentation so far. Well, I'm still a little bit of a fix because my background currently is centered around product management and project management. So I'm still looking at how I can still key into being a dev, because most of talks I've been seeing, like you said, it's more around probably using a tool, DBT, Python, and the rest like that. So looking at the fact that, okay, fine, I'm not really a technical person, right? Although I just understand how it goes, but I don't write code, so I don't do all that. So I don't know if there is also a way one can actually do that for a non-technical person.
Okay. For non-technical people, I think there are also like conferences for you, right? The only problem is that you don't know about it. And so the first one I want to ask is, are you part of any community in your field?
Yes, I am, but majorly, I don't think. Well, yeah, conferences do hold, but not much conferences, to be frank. Just yes, I'm in communities, but I've actually not seen conferences per se.
Well, you can be the one to organize the conference. So that's one way you can actually be the one to bring up this idea that let's organize a conference, and you can be a speaker. It's not a bad idea. That's a good way to start. You're not just organizing a conference, you're also making an impact, right? And that is good on your CV too. um, but then you can also look at joining other communities that maybe international communities too. So you don't have to limit yourself to just WhatsApp groups, right? Look at joining communities on LinkedIn that are focused on product management. Communities, you just search for communities online, or NGOs, or even some companies, right, that maybe offer, I don't know, some talent search companies. So just like explore your options. I know that a good place where you can meet other big people, right, is LinkedIn communities, where you have access to like resources from different people. I know that one is easy to join. Like, you have like a straightforward button, and then maybe you see someone that you check the post, and then you see someone that contributes meaningfully, or you can connect with the person, and you can also ask about upcoming conferences. That's like a general question. You can also ask even on the community group where you are, like, does anyone know of any conference or events on product management coming up? And you might be surprised at the answer. So I think that's a good way to start. Then again, you have Google search. You can like search for all that. But again, I think it still applies. The only difference is the context. So for maybe you're looking to, I don't know if there's a specific conference dedicated to product management. I am not aware. But then I know that you can submit sessions on product management to a technical conference. So I know of that one. Maybe that's the route you want to go about. So you can just, again, use Google to explore, or you ask people. I think these are like some of the most viable options.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Okay, I guess there are no other questions then. Okay, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.
Hi everyone. Good evening. It's been a while. Happy to see everyone again. Hi Jennifer. Hi Chine. Hi Barbara. Hi Mark. Hi everyone. Hi Bumi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. For the question, okay, how do I plan and how do I apply? Okay, I think applying is, you can find applications literally anywhere, but then at the same time, they're actually difficult to find unless you've had experience with applying. So somewhere I would recommend you start with is Sessionize. So sign up on Sessionize, right? If you sign up, there is a place where you can like discover events, and then they'll recommend events for you based on your skills, right, and experience. But then if you're just starting out and you're just getting started, and I don't know, depending on the kind of person you are. So if you've had experience with maybe teaching before, or maybe have tutorials, or just have like mini experience with teaching, like having to address a crowd, then well, you can go straight ahead. But if not, I would say that you might want to start maybe volunteering to tutor somewhere to build the confidence. Because one thing I realize is this: you might have like a great idea. Okay, I think this topic is really nice, but then your topic gets rejected because you don't know how to clearly explain and sort of pitch your, so just like you're pitching your content, right? You're pitching that, okay, I want to speak on maybe, for example, a cloud platform too, right? And then I want to talk about the disadvantages and advantages, and maybe give like a scenario, right? So if you've not had to like write a pitch before and sort of make this presentation before, so it might be quite difficult, right? So what you want to do is this: you want to start local. Maybe you have like tons of local events around you, so it's either you organize one yourself, or you maybe submit to somewhere like DevFest, or any of all these local events, really. And if your application gets accepted, you know that, okay, you know what to do, what not to do. And you can also like have people sort of proofread your proposal. So once someone understands what proposal you're writing, right, then you know that, okay, perhaps the organizers might understand. So it's more like a journey. For some people, you don't have to do all that. You can just go and then maybe submit to somewhere like NDC Oslo, right? So, and then your talk gets accepted instantly. So that's like one part. You want to sort of build that confidence and build how to write proposals, right? It's a skill. I mean, how to write convincing proposals. So you want to do that, and you can do that through submitting to local content. See, some even give you feedback, right? Oh, we don't accept it because of this. Sometimes it might not be because your proposal is not good, but because they already have like speakers, more qualified speakers, right, for the content and the track you're submitting for. Another thing you want to look at is, okay, what do I want to talk on, right? What's my experience? What's my skill? That's another thing. So, for example, if you're looking to apply to more conferences where they require like more experience, right? You don't want to come with 1 year experience and then, especially if they are keen about it. Some conferences want experts in their speaker list, right? Unless you're talking about maybe communities. Even if you'll be talking about communities, you must at least have a community that you lead or you contribute like in a leadership position, sort of. So you should not fake it till you make it. So if you're a leader, right, then you want to talk about, okay, how to lead communities or your experience with communities and that kind of stuff. So you don't want to lie. I mean, so another thing is, okay, you've looked at conferences or communities or community events that you can submit to, and then you want to check what track are they accepting. So for example, if they're accepting tracks on certain topics, right, you don't want to submit a topic that is off it unless they state that we are also open to other ideas. So you want to submit a topic that is close to like the track that they set. Some set tracking AI, data science, software, and then they specify. So it's not just software, like they have like specific tools. And for some conferences like JavaScript, Kubernetes, Azure, and certain tools. So if you're good in those tools, you can just like submit a talk, maybe talking about the projects you built or maybe your experience with using the tool, or some downtimes. And then if you're looking for experience, you can look at the conference previous speakers and then their videos. Some of them don't have like publicly available videos. So what you can do is go and look at their previous speakers, right, and try to get the sessions they spoke on. So that would give you an idea of, okay, these are the topics I should apply for, or this is how I want to sort of shape my proposal. So some conferences are really generous. They have like their previous speaking engagements available on their website and you can check it up. That's really nice. But some conferences don't have it, like it's exclusive content alone. So for those ones, you want to just read up on the speaker, like the speakers, you want to check, okay, which one am I can I closely compare myself with, right? Yeah, so that's like in preparation. So if you finally submit, you have 1 or 2 people proofread, and then maybe after a couple of weeks, your submission gets accepted. Good for you. So the next thing is, how do you plan and prepare, right? Because now your submission have been accepted. You want to do your best. You want to impress a couple of folks. I know you want to do developer marketing. It now depends. So if you're coming from your company, right? If your company is sending you, so you know that of course, you want to talk about your company a bit, but then you must be sure that the conference you're accepting, you're speaking at rather, they sort of allow sales pitches. So if they don't allow sales pitches, you don't want to come and pitch your company. I mean, that's against the rules. So if your company is sponsoring you, maybe you can use your company as like a case study to talk about what you want to talk about. But then if it's on your own, individual, right? I mean, you have freedom to talk about anything that you like, as long as you're not violating NDA rules. Okay, so you want to start thinking about what you want to talk about. So depending on your field, you might want to start gathering materials, like you want to make it quality. So start preparing early. I know maybe some of you that are struggling with procrastination, you want to like lead to few days, except you're really an expert. You don't, if it's your first time, you don't want to leave it to 2 or 3 days to the conference and then you're scrambling around. I mean, some conferences have like strict procedures where you have to submit some days before, like some even maybe like a month before, so that everything is in place. And some conferences are more flexible. So yeah, prepare ahead, especially if you're not too familiar with the topic. So I think that's another issue. So some people this topic, they're not too familiar with it, but they want to speak about it. Well, if you're speaking to experts, so you have to know who your audience is. So if you're speaking to experts, you don't want to do that, right? But if you're speaking to beginners, right? Maybe you learned about it, but you're not an expert in that topic. You're speaking to beginners, you're speaking to intermediates, okay. But you're speaking to experts, please don't. You just go and disgrace yourself unless you have like something meaningful to contribute. Yes, it's possible that even experts may not know this. So you have something meaningful to contribute. But if you're not too familiar with a concept, please don't. So talk about what you're really comfortable with, because when people ask you questions, I mean, the cameras are on, you're in front of, I don't know how many people, and then someone asks you a question and you don't know it. There are ways to like answer the question if you don't know it. It's different if you have no idea. I mean, there are some questions that are maybe controversial, and there's some questions that maybe they're just not in your area of expertise. But then there are some questions that anyone will know. Like if someone is in the field, the person will know. But then because you don't know it, you're just talking about it, and then you just go and disgrace yourself on stage. So you want to prepare ahead, you want to read wide, make sure that you're thinking of the questions your audience might ask while you're preparing. I like to start with creating outlines. I mean, like I just list out key points that I want to include, maybe in a Google document somewhere. And then maybe in the next 2 days, I come back again. Okay, I think this is really interesting. And then you read and you read and you read. And another thing about creating slides is you don't want to carry all the things you've read and then dump it on the slides. It's supposed to be a conversation, right? So those things you've read, those things you've understood is what you'll be talking about. And then the key points would be like on your slide. So that's about applying and then preparing, right? And then if you want to like rehearse in front of someone, right? Especially if you don't have like too much experience, you want to make sure you've rehearsed, you've talked, maybe gather like your friends or your family or your roommates, and then just talk to them. Hey guys, I want to teach you about this. I mean, you guys can laugh, you guys can like make jest and all, because it's like a demo. And then note their feedback. So whatever feedback they give you, some give you like genuine feedback. Some tell you that, okay, maybe you're using too much stop words, or you're not demonstrating enough, or your voice, or you need to work on something or something. Yeah. So you want to take those feedback and improve, and make sure that you are confident enough before you walk on stage. Yeah. Okay, Kristen is asking, do they provide template or guide? Yes and no. Yes, because standard conferences have they have like a guide to tell you, okay, this is what we're looking for, this is not what we're looking for, this is how we can support you, this is what we cannot do, and all those things. And more local conferences, maybe they don't. Like some just say, we want topics on this, finish. They don't say so much, and then you have to go through the stress of looking for, doing your research and all. So some make it easy for you, some don't. It just depends on the conference. The more standard the conference, the more you have access to these resources to guide you. Okay. I don't know if there are any more questions.
Very much. Yeah, there are more questions on the chat, but I have a few more questions, especially on the question management you mentioned. You know, of course, when preparing, like you said, you have to, you know, have like a prediction of what questions could come based off of your presentation. But in case you're being asked a question that you have no idea about, how can it best be managed, right? I mean, there are those who easily just get just get disorganized because of the question they're being asked. Are there things you can say to move past the questions? I mean, some are also like very not too comfortable saying, I don't know. So when it comes to question management, how do you think is best? How do you handle it best?
Okay. When it comes to questions, I don't know. I mean, even my last speaking engagement, I was asked a question and I froze because I forgot. I actually forgot the response. Um, I forgot the name of the tool, and I stood there for like 3 seconds. Okay, like you have to answer. So what I just told the person was, can we meet after the conference? So and then I'll share you the resource because I actually had the resource, but then I forgot what the name was. So you can just tell them that, okay, let's talk after the conference, or let's meet after, or you tell them that, okay, we can, yeah, just a way to like sort of divert it. And maybe if it's not directly in your field of expertise, right? Like the speaker before me, I mean, people were asking him questions about China, and he was like, come on, I'm not in the government. So you can just tell them that that's not my expertise, or that's not my, like, straight out, just let them know. And then you can say if you're open to maybe ideas, you can talk after. I think that's one way to sort of go about it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So let's talk about post presentation, right? Okay, let's talk about during the presentation. There are times when in some conferences, right, some particular elements make the audience rowdy, and so the audience are not entirely listening to you. Are there best practices to get audience attention when you think that they are distracted?
I think that skill sort of comes with experience, like you attending people's session and seeing how they've done it. So for me, I remember when I was speaking at Deaf Fest, the audience, they were tired. Like, I mean, when your audience is tired, you don't want to be throwing jargon on them. You want to make it interesting. You want to make it interactive. So before you start speaking, take a survey and look at the faces, look at everyone. Try to understand their emotions, right? Are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they bored? So depending on what so for my case, they were tired. It was, I think, around 12:01. So they've had like series of technical sessions and everyone was tired already. Everyone literally wanted to eat. So I don't need to act like I'm oblivious of that and just go straight and train jargon. I mean, it's not be beneficial to me, it's beneficial to them. So what I did was, okay, let's start with questions. So I threw a pop quiz, like just a fun stuff to the audience, and then everyone is sharing ideas. So the moment you have like people sharing ideas and people just talking about what they know, making it interactive. I had like series of stuff to talk about, but I had to just pick out of it because my audience was not so far in this right state of mind. So I made sure that, yeah, we are having fun, we are talking, but then I'm also passing the information. So the moment they are a bit relaxed and then they are in, that's when you begin to like throw the key points, and then you notice they are off again. So you guys go again, you sort of make it interactive. It doesn't have to be pop quizzes. I mean, you can just talk about something, maybe an experience or something fun. I remember I talked about my experience at the beach and how that sort of tied into my presentation, and sort of bring this reality, something that just sticks off their mind of, I don't know, of their stress, and then come back. But this again, sort of, you learn it from seeing other people do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. So anyone has any question regarding how they can best maximize speaking publicly, conferences, webinars to enhance your DevRel please ask the questions. Yeah, the question that I have, talking about jargons, right? There's some presentations that I've seen conference. So that was Dev Fest 2018. There was a large hall, and so the guy on stage was talking about Android development. And of course, not everybody in the audience was a developer, talking more of Android developer. So as he was talking for almost 15 minutes, 30 minutes, it was all jargons. People were not interested because of the jargons. So how do you manage jargons when you're speaking to general audience? Because not everybody is a talk for them, but then not everybody understands what the jargon means. So do you skip the entire jargons and use layman terms, or do you still use jargons and still target your target audience? I mean, it's not, if the breakout section is different, but it's like the general section.
I think I had this when I was at Azure Nigeria conference. So the session was supposed to be around 12:01, but then it was moved to like 5. Then, you know, by 5, like the big guys would have, I don't know, people that are meant for this session would have probably gone because they had other engagements. And then you have like newbies, I was supposed to speak on launching. So for launching, you need to have some understanding of what AI is, some understanding of what software is. You need to have like all these basics. So I got to the session, I looked around, I saw confused and tired faces. Okay, I can't go ahead. Like it's impossible. I can't even talk about most of what I want to talk about because this is not the right audience. This is not like what I ordered versus what I got. So there's no point just going to talk about it. So what I did instead was I just did an introduction to AI because they don't even know what AI is. I mean, how do you want to talk about launching when you don't know what AI is? So talked about AI, made it relatable, and then I now included the topic more like as an advancement. I think I didn't go past the first 2 slides because that's literally where I could stop. So depending on who the audience is, because you need to, in fact, I had to ask just so that I'm not making wrong assumptions. Like, who knows what AI is? Maybe just 2 or 3 hands. Then who knows what this is? And just few hands. Okay, let's just shift. Just make that shift. And then once they have that understanding, you can now tell them that, okay, you guys can maybe read more on these concepts, show them how it's applied and how it's related to that very basic stuff. So that was what I did.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think there's a lesson of being flexible, right? Being flexible while on stage. And of course, knowing who your audience are, asking questions. Anyway, developer here, how many years, get to know the room and see what best connects. I think being flexible also makes sense, like you just rightly mentioned. Another question I have is in terms of time management, right? Time management. So, sometimes it can be difficult to manage time while on stage, either because the last person who just spoke, we took all the time, and then you're being forced to, rush and all of those things. But how do you manage time?
That's also a good question. I think when I'm preparing for presentations, because if you've practiced, you already know like how long you're going to take. So he told me my session is 20 minutes, 5 minutes for Q&A. Okay, so in your head, you've practiced 20 minutes, your slides, everything related to 20 minutes, 5 minutes Q&A, right? But then it's something you have to do with experience, I think. Because now that they told you, okay, you have 15 minutes, then 5 minutes Q&A, you know that, okay, you're in your head, you're already thinking of the slides that you can just compress to one, right? So you have to like quickly think of these things before you go on stage. And sometimes you may not have to you maybe also have like a timer with you, first of all. You might have like a wristwatch or something. And then you know the parts that need more explanation, you know the parts that you can win through, and the parts that you can just summarize. So you're the one that prepared your slide, you should know all this. So you want to spend most of your time, like not most, but then like a huge chunk of your time on not too much, but on those heavy parts. And then for the other parts, you can like just summarize and wait through. But then at the same time, you're not losing key things. So some discussions are not just necessary. I mean, we're just using this to just pad the time. So you can just instead skip to like the core parts and core points. It's just you being conscious. So again, with experience, having to, maybe you've talked once, you check the time, and then you do it again and again and again. So by the time you're told that, oh, you have just like 10, even if it's 10 minutes, you're going to still talk about the most important things because you've done this with experience. So again, practicing before you speak, right? You already know the things that you can skip, right? And then make sure you just summarize to the key points only, right? And that might be towards the ending, like, yeah. So towards the ending, you want to put less weighty stuff, and towards the beginning, you want to put more weighty stuff, because towards the beginning you have this energy, and then you have this drive, but then towards the end, right? You're already tired. Even you're tired on this stage already. So you want to put the less weighty stuff towards the end so you can just like summarize it.
Yeah, that's a very good tip because seeing some speakers who have 15 minutes, but they spend almost 7 minutes on the first 3 slides, and they have like 19 other slides left and time management. Yeah, so it can be a lot. It can be a lot too. Do you think that slide preparation affects time management, right? I think how you prepare your slides affects your time. Is that correct? If yes, how?
Yes, like big time. I'm someone that I don't like too many slides. I mean, the slides I have here is probably 10 or 11. So I don't like too many slides. And I like that my slides have just the key points because they help me. Imagine if I see like a whole full paragraph in my head. I think I have a lot of things to talk about, but then you can just summarize that full paragraph to like 1 point. And that's if you're seeing just 3 points, you know that, okay, I can spend maybe like 2 minutes on these 3 points, especially if they're like bulky stuff. So it's, first of all, you don't want to have so many slides. I mean, it's except maybe your slides have like 1 word on each of those slides, but then that's not my style. I have like having slides between minimum of 7 to maximum of 14. And 14 is like, okay, this is a very long session. And I have like, maybe I have a couple of diagrams to show, right? That's why I'm having plenty of slides. So you don't have many slides yourself, you know that you're going to stick to time because you're in slide 3. And then you're sitting here, I'm in slide 19. Like I'm going to slide 19. You're just going to feel. I don't know, but my style, I have like having small number of slides because they just help me. Okay, I know how many minutes I'm going to spend. And when I'm in slide 4 in my head, okay, I have 5 slides remaining. Like I can easily manage my time that way.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Hopefully, in the last section, we'll probably go into tips on how to create slides and all. Yeah. Have you done a workshop before? Not just a talk, like a workshop.
Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. Because at the core of Dev More is workshops, especially for adoption. We need workshops, right? Are there different, what's the word now? Best practices different from a talk? Of course, a lightning talk is not the same as a workshop, right? So what should one keep in mind when doing a workshop as against when doing a talk?
First is that workshops are very long. I think depending on the conference. So for research conferences, some workshops are a day, some 6 hours. Like now, when they say a day, they don't mean like from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You're going to be there. No, that's not what they mean. Like you're going to have like maybe 3 or 4 sessions, right? And then you have like breaks in between them. So I think during deep learning in Daba last year, I took a workshop on introduction to machine learning. And I have all these exciting speakers. And so I think the difference actually is that you're not just talking. I mean, people are coding, people are like following along. So that's what you don't get with talks. Talks, you, except you want to show snippets of code, right? You don't probably, you're not saying, okay, open your laptop and then, I'm sorry, we don't have time, and then you are rushing. So there's not that kind of, like, you have time. You have probably 1 or 2 hours or even more to like finish your workshop session. And then you have like a code guide. So you have this code guide that people download and then they are running. So it's not like they're writing code live. You already have like the code templates, and then you give this out to your participants, and then you're explaining what each block of code does, and they're running, and then they're seeing the results. And you also have like assistants. I think it depends on the size of the conference, right? So for mine, I had like other volunteers come and answer questions. So maybe someone is stuck with internet issue or connecting with something or having a bug. So those people would be attending to them while I focus on like going through the topic, explaining these things, right? And then I have time. So it's not like it's really long, like it's longer than just your usual talk. I mean, 45-minute talk, you can have 2 hours. So you're like prepared, like, okay, I'm going to stay here for a while. So I think that's the difference between a talk and a workshop.
Yeah, no doubt. It's more time, and it's more like more one-on-one interaction with the audience, trying to help them fix or get something done. There are times when, they say that technology has a mind of its own. There are times when you've prepared. It works while you're preparing, but now you're in a workshop stage and it's not working. For example, of course, most of us, the dev rel, dev mal, it's like, markets or demos, some APIs, some platforms, and all of those things. The code is working. It works when you are doing the planning and the preparation. But now you're on the workshop, it's not working. So how do you move around those things?
Oh my God, this is, in fact, I think what even happens, I think the worst thing is it's not even working for you by presenting. And then you're the one solving, oh God, it can be really embarrassing, trust me. And that's why, number one, I avoid coding live. Like as much as possible, I avoid, especially when I have to deploy. You see, when it gets to deployment, servers just work against you. So deploying live, I avoid it. I even like I just avoid it. I just tell you, you can do this, you can do that. And I think another thing you want to do is that before the conference, you want to have other people run it on their computers. So sometimes it's not even your fault, right? It might be the computer you're running it on. It might be, I know it works on my computer. It might be maybe you're missing some configurations. So for example, I'm using a Mac, right? It works on my Mac. And then we move to a Windows system and oh my God, we start debugging, like can be hell. So I think what you want to do is you want to make sure you've tested it on maybe Windows and Mac, right, before your presentation. So you have an idea of the possible errors you might want to run into. Yeah, that I think that's the first goal. The second thing is if you are stuck, you probably want to revert to your original laptop. I think if reverting to your original laptop, it works on your original laptop, but then the laptop is using for presentation, it doesn't work. I don't know. You probably just have to like figure out the way. Maybe you have to find a port, but then these things cause disruptions and then it makes your audience sort of disinterested. But then these things happen. So it's just like how you're able to manage. So what you can instead do is you can just be explaining the code. So if you already have the output, right, showing, you can just like explain what this line does, and then everything, they will understand. When they get back home, they can like try things out and you can say, reach out to me if you're stuck or something. But then this laptop just packed up. I mean, they will not understand. So instead of you wasting your time trying to debug a bug that can never be solved within that limit of time, but then the moment the time is over, it will just work. I mean, sometimes these things are just against you for no legit reason. So I think that's what you can do.
Yeah, I know that because it can be embarrassing, more like, does this person even know what he's doing or she's doing, right? It can be embarrassing most times. And like you said, do not spend so much time trying to debug because it may not even work that time. And if there's one of the people that is working on their own, they can use theirs and find a way to, I think, yeah, like you said, experience as well. But of course, we're learning how to do certain things. It happens. As long as we're going to market tech, it happens. It definitely happens one time or the other. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, there's one time I had to fake a network issue. It was a webinar, so I was sick. I had to fake network, go and fix it and come back. But then it doesn't work all the time when you're in a physical, conference. But yeah, that's definitely one thing as well. Nice, 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 cool. So last question I have is post presentation, right? How do you network, right? So it depends on if you're going to a conference, sponsorship of the company, so you have to go to do other things as well. But overall, how do you network with people after or before the conference, either with the audience, either with the organizers, either with the people you want to get networking in the conferences?
This is a very good question. Very good question. Especially if you're a developer, I mean, and you're an introvert, it can be hard. But then I think people sort of miss what the goal of networking actually is. It's not about adding more WhatsApp contacts or adding more LinkedIn connects. That's not the goal of networking. The goal of networking is to make sure you met at least one person that can positively impact your life. So that's where people sort of mix it and then you're like, I don't know how to network. I don't think you don't know how to network. I think you're just looking at your friend that has talked to probably everybody. there, and then you guys are working, and then it seems like it's the only, like, this is the superstar, and then nobody knows you. So we have to really figure out what the goal of networking is, right? What is the goal? What is the purpose? You want to meet, even if it's just one person. I mean, my own developer, like, I attend a couple of events, in person, virtual, and then I just meet one person, at least one person. And then each of these persons have been instrumental to my growth, right? For meeting someone at a conference, and then the person is writing recommendation letters for me. I mean, I'm a bit shy, so I don't talk to too many people. I'm not the life of the party. I don't talk to too many people, but sitting right there, right? And then maybe you see someone like you too. Both of you are sitting down, you're looking. I mean, just go and meet your kind, and then you start talking. And interestingly, those kind of people are usually very, very intelligent. So I look out for them. Okay, who is like me, shy, and then just take a walk, and then I reach out to them, and then we start talking, and we're friends. Especially from my last conference, I was the only Black person there, and I'm still myself. I mean, I'm not extroverted, so I don't talk too much. But staying where I was, someone like, wow, which country do you come from? And the person was a VIP. So sometimes you don't need to do too much. Not like you now sit down inside one corner where nobody will see you, right? Or stay in the midst of so many people and where nobody will see you. So you want to be visible. You want to look out for who you're looking, especially if it's a conference that you have an idea of who will be attending. So you probably want to look out for some specific people you're looking to connect. So that's one way. But then if it's a conference that you just happen to be there, maybe your friend invited you, and then let's go. You're there. Okay. So now, how do I network? How do I meet people? You just, first of all, don't think of it too hard. People are also looking to meet people, and then they're like, how do I meet people? So just meet your kind. Really, that's very easy. And then you make sure that you follow up. So maybe it's only one WhatsApp contact you're able to get, but follow up, right? Message the person after the conference, like, try to build that relationship. That's what many people don't do, and that's where they miss it. So I remember I give a lot of contacts. Connect me LinkedIn, connect, plenty connects, but then maybe one or two people just message me. And then I'll remember you. I may not remember those other people, but I'll remember you that messaged me, right? I remember your name. I remember your face. I remember these things. So if I come across any opportunity or any recommendation, like, yeah, I think I know this person. And then so many of my friends, we usually met at events, right? Maybe one I met you 4 years ago, and now I met you, and then we're good friends, really. So I think you don't have to take it too hard. It's really easy.
Yeah, I get meet your kind. That's a very nice tip. Yeah, meet your kind. That's fine. Yeah, I think, yeah, what you said is good, because people end up taking so many contacts that make no use to them, and they just like fill up their contact book and all of those things. All right, makes sense. So if you can research ahead of time to know who and who is coming, do that and find those of interest and be seen, and you can eventually get to see someone and then talk to them. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Lastly, last one, right? Unless someone has any other question, right? So it's still part of the post presentation. So once you're done, of course, we need to leave digital footprints especially for those who are in the dev space, but everybody sees digital footprint. And then you see people on LinkedIn saying, I attended the conference last week. So writing about the conference, social media, on Twitter or LinkedIn, all of those things. So are there best practices for talking about the conference you went to on social media? I mean, there are those who, what they do is, I've seen someone, because he wants their attention, she wants their attention, what they do is they tag all the sponsors they saw on that conference in their post on LinkedIn. They tag people, just to get their attention. So is that best practice? How do you go about talking about a conference after social media?
I think it's just about trying what works, really. I don't know if there is a particular best practice, because what works for you may not work for me. What worked that time may never work this time. So again, it depends. Do you have a goal, or you just want to, if you just want to share, like, you don't really have, like, you just want to talk about it, let people know, okay, that one you can maybe do whatever, maybe we can write a blog about it, or you tweet about it, or you just write a long post on LinkedIn that nobody may ever read. So But then if you have a goal, maybe you're like looking to connect with the speaker of a particular session, but then you know that reaching out on LinkedIn is like you're among the thousands. You can just write about what you loved about that session, right? Write their name and then tag them and watch the magic happens. Yeah, so I remember I did that for one session. I knew that I can't send her a mail. I'll just be among the thousands. So I just did that, tagged her. She not only read it, she commented, she followed me, she went to search for my LinkedIn. Like, oh my God, I felt like a star. I mean, so that's one way to like draw attention if you have the aims. But then there are various ways you can share photos of yourself if you are comfortable with it. So I won't say always share photos of yourself. If you don't want to share photo of yourself, share photo of the conference, maybe share photo of the food, tell stories. And if you're not a social media person, so 2024 is a new year. I think it's a year that you should try to be social media small. You don't have to be big. So I understand I'm not into social media. I don't do, but try to change. I mean, you did the whole of 2023, no social media. What have your life been like? Okay, try 2024 with small social media and see if there's a change. I mean, so just try, even if it's just a picture or a tweet, something you gained from the conference. You really never know. I mean, you really never know who is reading your tweet, who is reading your LinkedIn post. I don't have to make it too long. I mean, I get annoyed when I like the pictures are inviting, but then I click on your LinkedIn and I scroll. What next? Like, please, why do people do that? I know you want to share about everything. You don't have to share everything in one post. You can talk about something exciting, short, succinct. Another post, talk about something else again. Like I've seen some people do this and it's really interesting. And I'm reading like everything because it's short, succinct, straight to the point, right? You go to the next one. Like, and like that, I can follow you, in fact, because I think that you have something interesting to talk about. So maybe we should graduate from that long LinkedIn post, tag everybody. Even if I see myself in the midst of like 20 other people you tag, I may just like it and just go. Let me share like it, like so that, you know, to fulfill righteousness. But then if maybe you're talking about something, you're taking my session, then something you took away, I would like, wow, you know, interesting. You actually get my attention, and I think you get a win out of it. So win for you, the speaker, because speakers like, okay, I made an impact, right? And then you get a connect. So I think there's win-win. I think that way is better. I mean, that's just my own thoughts. Somebody else might say something else.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely like, you know, it's common sense thought, honestly, because long posts is not for everybody. See it on LinkedIn, you know, and just a lot. Even on Twitter now, they can pay for the Twitter verification. So you can do long, different kind of posts instead of a thread. And so concise to the point, have a reason for doing what you're doing. And yeah, try to be mission objective driven in your posts, no matter how small it is. Makes sense. I get that. All right, thank you very much, Bumi. Like, we just wait for like 10 seconds in case anyone has any last minute questions on the chat. So hey guys, we're talking about how to maximize technical presentation in your DevRel career, as against public speaking, how to prepare, how to handle your talks, your workshops, during the workshops, and how to handle yourself after the talk as well. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, 10 seconds for any last minute questions. If not, we would really, really want to say thank you, Bumi, for making out your time to come today. Hopefully we'll get a more, you know, how to get things started in the last section this week, how to get your slides, how to, and the platforms you mentioned, section 9, and one of the ones you mentioned, you can as well have that on the slide as well, so you can wrap it up by Saturday. Jennifer is saying that thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for coming on. So yeah, we have any last words, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay. What do I start? So I think the whole discussion about learning like what talk to submit, how do you prepare, how do you make sure that your session is memorable? I think that's also important. I mean, I've attended some people's session where please just end it. Like, if not because your friend is there and then both of you're supposed to go to the session together, you'd have stood up and left. But then, you know, you want to make sure your session is memorable. Like, it shows in how you prepare for it. So the more hard work you put in a session, the more memorable it is, right? Can people maybe after talking like, I remember this person's session. I mean, I have a lot of people session that I remember out of the 300 sessions or plus or more, right? So you want to make sure that your own session is that memorable one. You may not even talk about something so technical. I mean, you're not releasing another Gemini AI, but then you want to make sure that your session, like people remember, regardless. They're like, and then they see you're like, oh my God, your session was amazing. They may not remember the content, but then they remember your name, they remember your face. I think that should be a goal. And that just opens opportunities for you. Because seriously, you never really know. You don't know who is who. You don't know who is sitting. You don't know who is listening, right? So make sure that you're giving good stuff, right? You're making it enjoyable, you're making it memorable, right? You don't want to give boring sessions. And for slides, I like interactive slides. I like slides that are alive. I don't like giving slides like my lecturers. Lecturers have a way they give slides that you're just reading to pass. Like there's no much life in it. I'm not saying you should put memes everywhere and then everybody's laughing. I mean, it's not a comedy show. But then you want to make sure it's professional, it's lively, it's neat, it's okay. And for applying for CPFs, call for papers or call for speakers, whatever it's called, it wants to make sure that perhaps start from your local communities, start from events near you, right? And then you build that confidence, you have an idea of what to submit as proposals, and then you begin to like, okay, go national, then go global. I think that's a good way to start. But again, for some people, I know you're too good for us. You can just shoot once and then you're gotten. So that's just like one way to go about it. But then you can just do whatever you like. Really, it's a free word. You can come up with your own technique. What else did I not mention? I think I have mentioned everything, I think.